And welcome back. We got the 47 kilo world champion. And Heather, we briefly talked about it after you just won, but from 2019 until yesterday, you've been doggedly pursuing this goal. 2019. I was talking to some of the lifters in the back, like, where were you in 2019? Because that's the last time Heather Connor was the world champion. And the gap between the two and everything you've dealt with, from injuries to naysayers doubting you to you even saying, look, there were moments I had to gut check myself. And here you are with that epic final pull, and talk about a freaking battle. I mean, there's so much to talk about that day, but I know I asked you yesterday, but now that you've had 24 hours to reflect, looking back at all this, what are your thoughts?
It's overwhelming. It's exciting. It's something that I knew was possible, and it wasn't a matter of if I could do it, just when I was going to be able to do it again. Because all these years of going through hardships with the health issues, the injuries, all of that, the doubt tries to creep in the back of your mind always. We're human. That's what's going to happen. But I believed in myself enough to know with how PA Nats went, I was going to bring something very, very heavy to the table at Worlds. I knew I had to if I planned on winning. And, when it came down to it, it was a really good day for me. And to be able to come back from 2019, 8 years later.
It's crazy.
And win another world title, it's overwhelming. It's an amazing feeling.
And the fact that it was Turbo Tiff, I mean, this is straight out of a movie. She was so dominant. 4 years in a row, the champion, which and as a junior for most of those, in and of itself might be a record. It's just we're so used to seeing her win. The fact that it was against her. She wasn't gone due to injury, or she was 100%. She was 100%. She did 455 in training for this. There was no backstory to her. You beat 100% Turbo Tiff. Could it have been any better?
No, it couldn't have. I know I said in the past, I'm going to bring up Wei Ling Chen real quick because Undisputed, she was the GOAT for years. And, she kind of started getting a little bit out of the raw classic lifting. And I had made a comment one time, which some people took, either way. I said I couldn't go against the best, so it became the best. And that ruffled the feathers of a lot of people. And I'm like, well, it wasn't me trying to target anything. It's just me saying, like, I am technically the best in the world at this point. But then you do have Tiffany Chapone who comes around, and it's amazing to see such a very young lifter do great things on and off the platform. So I knew if I ever wanted to be the best again, that is who I had to go against. And, going against somebody when they're not 100%, it's not as fulfilling. If I'm going against somebody, I want to make sure that they are the best that day, because then that win feels a little bit more sweeter to me. And it was an epic battle. It came down to who was going to make the most attempts. And every kilo on my side, on her side, counted. If you miss a lift, oh gosh, what's about to happen? And I remember I said after bench, I can make that 2.5 kilos up somewhere, especially on deadlifts. And sure enough, that 2.5 kilos is essentially what got me the win.
Yeah, I want to walk through the day, but holy smokes, that last deadlift. I don't want to bury the lead, but in terms of Wei Lee, for those who don't know, she's an Olympic gold medalist in Olympic weightlifting. And the importance of that, people often say if the A-class athletes from other sports joined powerlifting, it'd be a different story who was world champions. And the reason why that's important, we had an A-level athlete who was an Olympic gold medalist. And people say if powerlifting was in the Olympics, all of our champions would get pushed out. However, she can be at least one data point. Our 57s right now would be able to sustain, because you guys now are doing stuff that she's wasn't able to do. Obviously, you took a record initially, but now we're well beyond that. With you, Turbo Tiff, several of even Vicky, who came in bronze, was above what she had done. So I do like that data point. Our 47s today are A-level athletes, regardless whom you compare them against, which means a lot. So anyways, all that being said, let's roll it back. Coming into this competition, obviously, you know all the storylines. You felt as strong as you've ever been. You heard the preview show podcast. Some were saying upset and you'll take it. Some were saying, no, Tiffany's going to take it. But there was an understanding, despite the fact you've been in the game 10 years and had already won world titles, you were probably the strongest we've ever seen. What was your impression going into this?
My impression going into this was I can only control what I can do, right? Doing the best that I can the day of and just making sure that I stay focused on myself and not anybody else in that room. I think in the past, and maybe some lifters nowadays, they get so stuck on what their competitor is doing, and it kind of like hurts their performance a little bit because they're chasing them rather than just focusing exactly on what they can do the day of. So I just kept telling myself to focus, separated myself very far away in the warm-up area just so I could have a clear head the entire time and just let it happen the way it was supposed to. I felt confident, I felt strong, and I knew that it was going to show on the platform.
When you showed up at the venue, because you're a veteran of the game, we were talking about offline before we started recording. You were in 2017 Belarus when you won your first title. I remember. You've been around. You've been in these scenarios. You've been in so many warm-up rooms and so many battles. How does that help you in terms of calming your nerves when you show up 2025?
I mean, if we think about 2017 Belarus, I was in, the weigh. I was ready to weigh in. I just wanted to weigh in and I wanted to compete. And now, I just walk in the venue and I'm watching people, cheering them on before I even go to weigh in. I think these years of experiences, in the sport, as an athlete, as a spectator, I really do enjoy watching other people do great things as well. And sometimes when somebody is competing and they see somebody who they followed on social media for so long, watching them in the crowd, cheering them on, that motivates them a little bit more too. And if I can take 10, 20 minutes out of my day to make sure I can give that to somebody else, why not, right? I had time before weigh-ins. I mean, what was I going to do, standing in a hallway and just stare at people? No, let's watch a show that's going on. And the guy from Spain, he did a remarkable job. It was fun to watch him. And the same thing going into the men and women today. I'm going to enjoy watching them and just enjoy being a spectator in the sport as well as an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gift to be able to actually be present and not be constantly living in the future leading into the event. But that only comes with time and experience. Yeah. I mean, it'd be a whole nother ballgame when you're younger going in there and it's all fresh, brand new. When you're in there, is there ever a moment where you're like, my God, it's 2025 and I'm still here? It's almost 10. I mean, you've been, actually, were you in 2016 as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember that was my first one. So you've been around for so long at the world level, unheard of in our sport. People coming and going, and it feels like every 6 months a new barrier is broken. And for you to have sustained yourself for this long and to evolve with the sport is incredibly unique. Your people that you were with in 2016, the American team, when you look around, who on the American team is still on the American team? Men and women.
Banika.
That's it. And she's got a very tough task to win. She's here, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But for her to do what you just did and win.
I mean, look, I said it back in 2019, the first Sheffield interview, right? I remember Justin said to me, he said, what do you think Sheffield is going to do for the sport? And I flat out said, you know what? I think it's going to bring people out the woods, people who we've never seen before. I think we're about to see a whole new category of lifters because you see these grand shows and you tell yourself, I can be part of that. And you train hard to be part of that. And sure enough, you see Tiffany Chapon coming out of nowhere. And I think that's what kind of puts me a little bit aside is I'm a very logical, realistic thinker. So I know there's more than just one Heather Connor out there. I know there's more than just one Banika Brown, or Taylor Atwoods. And sure enough, here come these people, and they're like, yeah, it's me. I'm not Heather Connor. I'm Tiffany Chapon. And then it's like, well, there goes my world title 4 times. And, you have got to, if you're going to stay in the sport for as long as I have, almost 10 years, you have got to learn to adapt. Like, you can't be complacent where you are. You can't be comfortable where you are. Like, you have got to learn how to be uncomfortable to be able to get back to these positions again. Because, if it's just tweaking your technique some or, adding that extra training day in, like, it's not going to get easier. So you have to be able to adapt to the circumstances if you ever want to get back to that spot.
And that's part of evolving, and not only physically, like you're talking about training wise, but even mentally, emotionally. Like Tiff she had never lost ever, which is very weird to make it all the way to the world level, 4 world titles later, and have never lost, never felt what that is. And, it's difficult to hear right after you lose, like, this is not a bad thing. This is going to instigate growth. It's going to cause growth. But, you would be able to say, look, you've been in the game 10 years pursuing this. The growth you must have had from 2016, 17, 18, 19, that Heather Connor, who was, by 2019, you were so dominant and so strong, to this Heather, who is back on top, back to being the world champion. What is the difference in not just the training and everything you've done to evolve like that, but as a person, as an athlete, the growth you've been forced to sustain due to being uncomfortable, due to having to tell yourself, I'm not number one. I don't know if I'll get back at times. You doubt yourself, and then to come back and to be here now.
Yeah, like you said it all when you said all that. It's like, I work all day. I'm on my feet all day. And some days are harder than most. I have like 20 to 60 kids yelling at me a day and calling my name. And there are times where I get off work and I'm like, man, I really don't want to drive to the gym, but I really want to be a world champion again. And I will go there, and the people at the gym, they are very, very supportive of me. They talk to me. They're like, you can do this. We are so excited. And, them encouraging me just makes me come in and out of that gym every single day. But I would be lying if it said there were times where I just wanted to go home and go to sleep. But, a lot of people, they have asked, like, what would 2019 Heather say right now? Like, man, I can take it all the way back to before some of these people listening to this podcast were even born, 1998, where, I was heavily into sports. I've always been competitive. My dad was a very well-known coach in the Carolinas. And so we would get into these competitions, and there would be days where I didn't feel like training for it. And he would tell me he would always bring up my biggest competition's name. And obviously I'm going to use like Tiffany in this instance, but if we reverted back to 1998 and I'm sitting there on the couch watching cartoons, he'd be like, well, who's not sitting here watching cartoons? Tiffany. And it kind of lights a fire underneath you. You're like, man, yeah, you're right. And I would go out there and I would train to be better because, the competitive side of me, wants to win. And when you do lose, it's hard, especially when you have been winning for so many years. But, with loss comes greatness. And even though Tiffany Chapon did lose this time, I think that might have just kind of turned her, journey up a notch. I think we're going to see a whole different Tiffany Chapon, whether it be in the 47 kilo class, 52 kilo class, because respectfully, she's going to be great at both, whatever she does choose. But sometimes losing is what helps allow us to be greater than we were before. And I think there's going to be a lot of determination behind her. And as somebody that, again, has been in this for almost 10 years, who has experienced the wins, the losses, like some of those fired me up. I'm like, I hated that feeling. I don't like feeling that way. And I'm going to make sure I don't feel that way again.
It's important in life to lose things to gain perspective. If you walk through life and everyone else, we're talking life period, if everyone else takes losses here and there, or you feel what it feels like to lose, to have something and lose it, whatever it is, the perspective you gain, growth you gain, and if you run into someone who's only ever had it their way, there will be a difference in growth between those two people. If you're that person who's only ever had it your way, only ever achieved anything you wanted, you got relatively quickly, you're unrelatable and you're not getting the growth you could have. It's hard to hear, but it's actually a good thing to be forced growth because no one's going to take an L if it's not forced upon them. That's right. It's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world to sustain. And in terms of a story, if someone ever doubles back, does a documentary on this era, I promise you, it's like the Amanda Lawrence effect. Love Amanda, but if you just win, and you don't have major battles, back and forth rivals, it's not as intriguing a story as, for instance, what we just said you achieved is freaking phenomenal. Anybody who takes an L now and is like, oh my God, is this it for me? And starts questioning themselves. It's like, hey. Now they're going to bring up Heather Connor. Do you realize from 2019 to 2025, she was pursuing and came back, and you're about to give up after one or two? Do you imagine the gut check time she had? And what she must have felt, the naysayers, etc., and seeing supporters turn to doubters. And then year after year, and then get it like 6, 7, 8 years later. And you're going to quit after 1 year, one meet doesn't go your way, or you're starting to... It's important to have these things as cautionary tales or inspirational tales, etc. But it's probably difficult at this time when you first take your first L.
Yeah, it is. And, I did approach her in the back of the warm-up room afterwards, and she was very upset. And for me, I tell my students all the time, I'm going to let you feel what you need to feel. I'm not going to sit here and, oh, don't cry. No, feel it. This is a hard loss. It's, again, you've been at the top for so long. Like, it is supposed to hurt when you finally do lose. But that's not the end of her story. And I think between me and her, there is going to be greater battles to come, and hopefully soon, because I know that's what people want now.
And that's the thing. It was so good, and we'll get into the day now, but it was so good. As sports fans, you beg for the encore, and you want to have more. It's like a good meal. You're like, please, let's keep going. This was sensational. So it lived up. When the squats came through, obviously you hit a squat PR. Let's walk through the squat event. You were extremely strong. I mean, crushed all your squats, hit a PR, stayed in the pocket enough that when you had to pull, and we all know, like this was, we all know it's going to come down to the last pull. Let's walk through how you felt on your squats, and when you seen Tiffany load up the world record, which we could talk about attempt selection on the French side, but I was okay with them going for the chip, and the weight they chose I thought was within range in terms of the squat. So your opinion on the squat session?
So squats, I do this really cool thing where I gaslight myself. It doesn't matter how good I feel. I'm going to be like, hey, Kedrick, let's go ahead and lower the opener. And everybody's looking at me. I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And, they just won't. And I tell them even before the day of, I'm probably going to do this. You're not going to talk me out of it. Just do it. One of my biggest things is if you listen, because I have it in my mind how I want my day to go. And if you listen to me, I know we're going to have a good day, because at the end of the day, I know I am in my body. I know how it feels. And always the nerves, they come around, especially, Malta. I would say I bombed down by the grace of God. They overturned the last lift, but it was 132.5. And so we had the opener set for 137.5. I'm like, man, do I really want to start off a squat session by getting in my head and just not doing great? And so I told Kedrick, all right, let's just go ahead and lower it to 132.5. And he's like, let's stick with 135. Surely you're 2.5 kilos stronger than you were in Malta 3 years ago.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, we'll do this. And warm-ups, they felt great. To remind people, I do have a double curve scoliosis. So the bar is always going to sit a bit crooked on my back, which does make my hips a little bit uneven. But my warm-ups may look a lot different than other people's because I can't take as many because my back will get severely inflamed. And that's when it gets harder for me to hit depth because my hips will be very uneven. So I will have to start taking singles relatively quick. And, they felt fine. Doubled up on some ibuprofen just to make sure. That's 34 talking to you. But, I go out there, I hit 135, and I was like, yeah, that felt good. Did that move okay? And that's always my first question. Everybody's looking at me like, yeah, Heather, it moved great. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's just stick to the plan then. And, he put in 142.5 for my second attempt. Probably moved better than my first, of course, because there was some nerves with the first. And I didn't really know what they were going to load for the third attempt. I knew it was going to be anywhere between 145 and probably 150, and we went with the middle of 147.5. And the back spotters and the spotters themselves, they were super motivating while on the platform. And I'm going under there, and the back spotters, he's just talking to me. I'm like, man, I feel like if I don't get this right now, I'm letting down my dad.
Right.
So I was really happy. We went 3 for 3, and just it really set the tone for me for the competition. My confidence, it went up a few notches, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a good day. If squats are going good, which is, again, like my most iffy lift because of everything I'm dealing with my back and hips and stuff, I know the rest of the day is probably going to go really well for me.
That's exactly what I was saying in the commentary booth. For you to be at Worlds hitting a PR after, travel and everything, time zone changes, etc., world standards, this is what people want to see. Now, you've dealt with all that good and plenty, but still to hit a PR and with all the physical, injuries you've had or things you've had to deal with leading up to this, are we 100%? Are we over 100%? Your 100% leading into it was 425. That's close. But if you're over 100%, and you didn't need to be much over, we knew you were right there alongside her. So this is what we were paying attention to. If she hits a PR, it doesn't have to be a big PR because you got 3 events, and you're not far behind with 425 to get to around 430 range. And you hit a PR and squat, and you smoked it. And you looked very strong, very confident. And all of a sudden, it was like, uh-oh. That's going to be trouble for Team France. I'm sure everyone watching was feeling the same way. Now, on the flip side, what made it even more an intriguing, oh my gosh, wait till we get to deads, Tiffany Chapon and Team France loaded up the world record and missed. Did you watch that and see it happen? You what, sorry?
I watched it.
Okay, so what were you thinking at that time?
I take pride in being someone that's like really, really good at RPEs. And I saw her second. I was like, I wonder what they're going to load for that third, right? And Tiffany, like, again, she's really strong. I'm not hitting that number. So I really don't have too much. I'm not opening with 155
Fair.
or hitting it on a third attempt. So, seeing that's really cool. But she's also one of those lifters that either she just gets it and it looks great, or she just misses it and it doesn't budge at all. So I knew with the way the second moved, like logically in my head, I'm like, when I saw what they put in for the third, I said, I hope she gets it, but realistically, I don't think it's there because there was that sticking point for her in the second, like right out the hole. And sure enough, she goes out there for the third. She hits depth, and then it just doesn't go anymore. But again, like I'm not here to discredit anybody. I'm not here to wish, anybody to do their best. Again, I want her at her 100%. And obviously she's putting her 100% out there. She's going for a world record. But at the same time, I'm also very hopeful. I'm like, all right, I'm counting those kilos because any kilo that you're leaving behind, I'm stacking on you right now. And that's what it comes down to in a competition between me and hers, kilo by kilo. What are we going to get?
Every kilo counts.
It does.
And this is where the bench press event, we'll get on in that. So bench press, again, you're strong. You're strong all day, obviously. We'll talk about your bench. You still equaled your PR, went for a 2.5 kilos more in your third, but it wasn't, it wasn't like going to empty the tank, and it was kind of an added if you could get it. You don't have to deadlift that 2.5 kilos. If you don't, all is well that ends well. So let's talk about your bench, and then we'll talk about hers.
Yeah, so we opened up with 70 kilos, super easy. They went for the 5 kilo jump, which, bench is hit or miss for me, right? I'm one of those lifters. You put 2.5 kilos on there, it can turn into an RPE 10 real quick. But they loaded 75 moved really well. And I'm like, dang, 77.5, probably there for my third attempt. Went out there, it felt fine. But again, like my back was kind of inflamed. So I knew there was some unevenness going on there. So looking back at the video, you can see where my right side was significantly lower than my left. And I didn't even know it was possible to windmill a bench press. Like that's normal in squat or deadlift. And I was like, and I remember I was telling myself as I was pressing, I'm like, oh, this is weird. But then
That's not good.
then I hit the lip of the thing. I was like, oh, it's going to be a red light anyway, so just take it. Like there was no point of me trying to overexert myself on something that I can push this out, but what's the reason it's going to be a red light? I know the rule book. And so knowing that, I was just like, just take it. I'm going to save my pecs because this 2.5 kilos, I for sure can make up on deadlifts. So, 2 for 3, tying my best in comp and still feeling very confident moving forward to deadlifts.
And when you saw, so on the French side, Tiff broke the world record on her second attempt. So going in, 101.5 was her in-comp best. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at one point she hit 107.5 in prep. Now, here's the difference. And this is where I'm not sure if this led to their decision-making in terms of the attempt selection for them. But in prep, I think as the years go by, Tiffany's getting, weightlifting, the byproduct of that is getting more muscular, you get bigger. So in April, around mid-April, which is quite a bit of ways out, I don't know where her body weight's at, but she did 455 SBD day. That's when she did 107.5. Is it rate to comp standards with the pause? Can't super remember, but it's probably not going to be as deadly a pause as IPF Worlds will give you. Where was the body weight, etc. But it likely gave potentially an inflated sense of where some of her numbers might be, which could lead to missing third attempts that might be more out of reach than you might think. So when Worlds comes around, she does her previous PR in comp is 101.5. Out of comp in prep was 107.5. How they decide to find, negotiate where they're going to be on the day is going to be crucial. Mm-hmm. Every kilo is going to count.
Yeah.
So she hits her opener, does 102.5 for a new PR and new world record on her second attempt. In the commentary booth, I am thinking, if it's coming down to a kilo and a half, and it's going to be that tight, I would be totally cool with 103.5. Maybe 104 tops, but like just a kilo and a half to 2 kilos, because when it comes down to your very last pull, I want to throw another kilo on there. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll throw another kilo and a half at you. Maybe I throw another 2 kilos at you, and you're like, okay, now it's coming out of Heather's hands. Yeah. Like this, but they went 105, which again, if you take away 107.5 in prep and just look at 101.5 in comp, I'm not sure. What were you thinking when you saw that? And they also forego the chip. That's a whole nother discussion. I don't think she was going to get 105 anyways, but
I was pretty disappointed by that third attempt selection for her. I'm like, why would you do that when you could have easily did 103.5, right? Because that one, I 100% believe she could have got 103.5, and that would have forced me to pull 250. But, you have to think about those things. And, I'm not just going to blame the coaches, because as athletes, we have to communicate as well. And, I love everybody hyping me up. But let me tell you something. I know if something's there.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, you were saying lower my squat opener. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
So, I was joking going into my third. I was like, y'all are putting the world record in there, right? It's not 77.5 if anybody's listening. Not at all, not even close. But for me, like I'm never going for a bench world record, so I always poke fun at it because I'm like significantly lower than, and it's so incredible to see anybody do 90 plus. But it didn't make sense to me. Like it's almost like you're setting yourself up to potentially put yourself at risk of missing this. So it's. You got to be vocal and say, no, just do this. Like, put your foot down. I don't know how the communication goes with them, but I know as far as, the Americans go, like, maybe you got to put the fear of God in them. Like, you're not putting that number in.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean it. Like, because I want to win bad enough to where I need you to trust me on this. We're supposed to trust the coaches, but the coaches also need to trust the athletes and how they're feeling as well. And just make sure that I know and you know that we have our best interests in mind, because we're on the same team. Like, you have to be able to relate to the athlete when they're saying, it's not like a confidence thing where I'm not confident in myself in hitting this. It's realistically, this is not there, but I do know that this is. And I fully believe if she would have loaded 103.5, I would have had a harder day. It was still hard.
Yeah.
But it would have been harder.
And these are the things where if there's any critiques, the French are phenomenal. The French are, everyone knows the French are phenomenal. If there's any critiques, and there's always critiques even at the top end, it would be maybe loading up a little too heavy on thirds and potentially missing. And if you're winning relatively comfortably, it might not, the roosters don't come home to roost, so to speak. It might not catch you. In this particular showdown, you were close enough where it might expose some areas where they can improve anyways. And this is where it was, where it's like, okay, listen, you're a 10-year vet in the game. You were going to fight kilo by kilo. Nice round numbers, 105, a peculiar choice, leaving a chip behind when you're obviously going to grab a chip in deadlifts. That was peculiar anyways, but then just the jump, it doesn't matter what you hit in prep. You have stats at weight. After you've cut weight to 47, you know where your bench press is at then. I get it. Whatever happened in prep might inflate the sense of strength on certain numbers, but you haven't traveled, you haven't cut weight, all of those things haven't happened yet. You have a list of statistics and data points when you have. So there's got to be an in-between there. And that's where I think, they might get a little caught up in what happened in prep. I'm not sure. But that when we saw that in the commentary booth, Amelia saw it before me, and she was like, when you do watch the stream back, Amelia goes, very peculiar. We're going to have to talk about that in a second. And you can audibly hear me like, I'm not sure what you're talking about, whatever. And then when I catch it, when I look at the scoreboard and I catch coming up down the pipeline, I see 105 for Tiff, and I'm like, and I said, oh gosh, we're going to talk about that when it comes up. Yeah. And I think when they replay this back and the French team sees this, I think they'll realize what a lot of other people probably saw coming ahead of time, and they'll understand the discussion afterwards. And again, when you're winning, it's easy to fluff things off. But sometimes when the loss happens, it's not the worst thing to reevaluate and say, hey, there's always areas of improvement. And she's phenomenal.
I mean, it's like NBA players or any sports team, like probably the day after they have a game, they watch video and how they could be better. And that should be your mindset all the time. How can I be better than I was this time? And hopefully that is a learning experience for them, because again, when I go against anybody, I want to go against them at their absolute best, and maybe taking these little, factors into play going into the next competition. Okay, let's do this a little bit differently, see how it plays out, because surely, me being a realist, if they played the kilos game the way they needed to, I probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you. It'd be a whole different conversation. And that's just me being honest.
Yeah, how honest is that for you to say that first off? How refreshing is it to you to say that?
Well, because I know, I'm not, I'm not going to be like, oh, I would have won anyways. Maybe 2019 I would have said that. Yeah. But nowadays I'm like, man, I don't know. If they just would have played these numbers right, she would have won.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely would increase her chances. Let's put it that way.
It would have made it very difficult for me.
Right. Yeah, and also the reason why you're still here after 10 years is because if you take a loss, you are forced to double back and evaluate and be like, what could I have done? Mm-hmm. And this is kind of what I was saying, briefly to Tiff afterwards. Now you're going to evaluate like you never would have if you keep winning. Only when you lose do you stay up for 2 to 3 days. You're living in the moment and you can't get out of that moment. It feels horrible in the moment, but when it passes, you'll realize only because it feels horrible and you're uncomfortable, like you said earlier when we first started, only when you're uncomfortable are you going to truthfully evaluate. when you're winning, you could almost lie to yourself. And be like, nah, didn't matter. Nah, if you get away with it. But if you, and even if she missed but still won, wow, whatever. But only when you're uncomfortable and it hurts and you're literally brought to tears, are you going to be like, all right, I don't want to feel that anymore. Right. It feels so bad. I don't want to feel that ever again, if possible. The good news is you have things. It is possible to not feel that bad, but you have to be honest and evaluate. And that's why you're here 10 years later and give honest takes on yourself and be like, no, this is how you come back.
Yeah. You know, like I had this conversation at breakfast this morning. I said, yeah, if it would have been a little bit different and I would have lost, I know that I would put my absolute best out there. And that would have sucked, but I probably would have left him like, all right, let's go get some ice cream because I did everything I could. Now, unfortunately, some days we do have bad days. We underperform and we know that's not our best. And I've said it plenty of times when I was super angry after South Africa. I said, you can't go against people like this and expect to win on a 6 for 9 day. You cannot. And I was so mad back then, but it did allow me to reevaluate. And, you know, some of those things were out of my control, like the cancellations of flights and all that. So, you know, that I wasn't too upset about. But knowing your potential and it not showing, that was the most upsetting thing. And I think that's probably what was getting to her a little bit. She knows the potential she has, but maybe not being as honest with herself when it comes to these weight cuts and how much strength she's retaining in that. I mean, we see great lifters all the time, like the guy that cut from the 66 down to the 59.
Right.
You know, there were some injuries in there, so I will give him that. But an injury plus a weight cut, I don't know. Like, you know, we saw him maybe podium, and he finished 10th. And, you know, this is a good opportunity for him to probably be like, all right, maybe I shouldn't be 59 kilos.
It's a conversation. Yeah, that's Cassim saying. It's a conversation anyways. For sure. It does. These self-evaluations aren't the worst things. So let's talk about deadlifts. And then I want to talk about the final deadlift. And I'll always remember your facial expression. And I was looking at your hands. I don't want to cut to the story. It's too good. So let's talk. Let's walk up to that deadlift because it was so dramatic. And when you started looking around afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, all right, fuck it. Let's get into it. When you pulled that last deadlift, I was looking at your hands like, oh my God, if they don't give their down command, what if it comes out of her hands? And almost like a sports moment, you held it and started looking around like, no, I did it. And I was like, oh, it's not going to come out of her hands.
No.
For a second, you're looking like, holy smokes, what if it does? Give her the down command quick. This is it's coming down in her fingers. Like, you're just thinking this because it's a monster deadlift. And you've seen it so many times where people pull the last pull. And they're about to do it, and it just comes out of their hands like, oh. And then you realize when you start looking back and forth, and the smile on your face, like, and I'll let you tell it, what you must have been feeling, all of those years, everything you heard, even the self-talk you must have had, and you're like, fret not, this is not coming out of my hands. Like, I don't care if it's down to the last pinky. But let's talk about the deadlifts. You know where you're at. She's missing her thirds. You're hitting. You're strong. Even if you missed your third bench, you still tied your PR and you're super duper strong. Going into deadlifts, how are you feeling?
I feel great. You know, deadlift is always, it's my thing, right? I'm known for my deadlift. And I remember I told Kedrick back at PA Nats, like, I can open up with 195. And he's like, well, let's open up with this. And I was like, okay, you hate me. So when I pulled 205 back at PA Nats and it flew, there's you saying there's this warning shot. But it's also Kedrick as a coach being like, oh, man, what are we about to do at Worlds? Mm-hmm. And so he did allow me to get that 195 opener, moved as easy as I thought it would be.
Right.
And I'm so used to doing 10 kilo jumps to my next attempt. So we loaded that 205, which was what I hit at PA Nationals. And it was in that moment I knew I was going to pull for the win. Like, I knew it. Because 205 moved the weight. And I usually, when I'm at pulling the slack out of the bar, I know it's going to move. So I get done with that second attempt, and I even started yelling at the cameras. I don't know who I was yelling at. I was like, it was probably just an athlete. Who knows? I was like, you want a show? I'll give you a show. Because I knew in that moment, you can load whatever you want to. Because I tell people all the time, like, if I'm going to miss a deadlift, it's going to be on strength. It's not going to be on grip. Respectfully, I fully believe I have one of the strongest grips as a female in this game. And that's from years of gymnastics, everything like that. But I know if it breaks, I got it. Like, you better hope this doesn't break the floor. So going in, we put that placeholder in for 220. I knew that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Like, hello, what is this? So I put on my music and I was walking. I mean, I'm like I'm pacing back and forth. And the coaches, they're like, do you want to sit down? I'm like, don't talk to me. Because I have to pace. Like, my adrenaline's so high. But, you know, I did not expect Tiffany to miss 172.5 on her third. I thought 170 moved well for her, well enough to where I thought a 2.5 kilo jump was okay. Now, they did put in 177.5, and I was like, no.
It's the same. In the commentary, when you listen back, so she had missed 172.5 3 times in a row leading into this. However, I agree with you. On this day, 170 moved very well as a second. But Amelia says in the commentary booth, well, first off, 177.5 as well. We were like, I hope to God they don't trying to do 177.5 because that is not going to, that's not a good idea. And based off of 105 for the third bench, I'm like, they might be, but they brought it down. 172.5. I don't know if it's mentally in her head, but this is like 4 times in a row she's missed it. Yeah. But 170 moved well. I agree with you. I thought she might hit that.
Yeah, you know, when they bumped it down, I was like, yeah, that's a better call.
100%.
100%. Like, I said that as I saw it. And I had it in my head. She's definitely going to hit this, and they're going to throw 215 on there. Like, that's going to be my number. I know how this game goes. So to see her miss it, and I knew the Americans were changing it to whatever it needed to be, I was like, dang, that's tough. But I'm about to go pull this weight real quick. And I said to myself, you know, because I'm listening to my music. I'm just thinking, and it's, okay, this is the one thing that separates you from being a world champion. This one lift. And there's 1 or 2 things that are going to happen. Either it's not going to move at all or you're going to get it. And so I went out there. I could hear the crowd, and I wanted the crowd. You know, it makes me think about Jurgens when he's silenced in air. No, I want the noise. Yeah. You know, I want people on their feet. I want the cameras out. I want them watching because that is showing me some encouragement. You know, this isn't like a walk in the park pull. This is going to challenge me. I knew it was. I've never pulled this weight in my life. So I get down there and pulling the slack out, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting this weight. It's not going to be easy, but I knew it was going to be there. And as soon as it broke off the ground, it did give me a fight. But again, one thing I knew I could hold that bar up there all day if she wanted me to. I would hate that. Yeah. But, you know, I kept checking my hands after each pull, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This callus is going to hang on. And even if it doesn't, like, I'm still, yeah, I'm not going to be one of those people that look at my hands after I drop it. It's not happening. You know, like, when I finished the pool, and, you know, I see the comments online. They're like, there's downward motion. I'm like, listen, I'll be the first I'm such a technical person. I'd be the first to be like, yeah, there was. But it's all angles, right? You know, and I don't believe there was downward motion. There was a stop. 100% there was a stop. And I think people confuse my lagging of one side to be downward motion of the bar, but it's just leveling itself out, right? But to get to the top and just hearing the crowd and hearing the head ref give me the down command, like, my soul left my body when I put the weight down. I'm like, hello, where am I at? like my obliques were hurting. I was like, I don't even know where the lights are. So I just had to sit down a second, and here's this big burly man above me. I'm like,
Jesus?
Just slide. Like, are you the German Jesus? Yeah. But to see that and just know everything played out the way I had always anticipated to was just amazing. There's no better feeling than that. It's like, that was hard.
Yeah, you're probably
215, not there, but 212.
You're like, wasn't planning on 2025, but that's fine. It's still sweet that it came.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, I saw no up, down motion, but you're 100% right. I think people confuse the fact that it's the bar, not the body. Like the body's moving around, doing whatever the body's going to do. And it is literally when you have a line behind a background that's moving, it sometimes looks like they mistakenly, in live, it's all like 2 seconds long, mistaken it because it's like an optical illusion. The backgrounds are moving while the line is teetering, but not up, down.
Yeah.
So I don't fault people too much in a 2 second pull, and maybe you're rooting for Tiff. You're going to say things like that. But in all honesty, been doing this commentary for 10 years, every session at Worlds, and that was not down up. And you see it all the freaking time where there's a scrap behind the bar. The bar is moving, but it's not down up. It just looks like that.
Well, it happened in the 59 class. And I said it while I was watching because, oh my gosh, before he gets the down command, like everybody in the crowd was like, ooh, ah. And I'm like, you know what? If that, because like you just hope the judges may have not seen it, but then you got the crowd.
Yeah, it's like, oh, shut up, guys.
Yeah, can y'all relax it? Like I probably like that would have been a crash out for me.
Yeah,
like
you put it down. God, shut up. Let them decide themselves.
Actually, y'all's fault.
Yeah,
because like. You know, and that's not what you got from the crowd's cheering. Like, the crowd's going to be the first ones to be like, ooh.
Yeah, oh, shucks.
Yeah,
like,
not
sell
only do
it.
I already feel bad that I missed this pull, but now you guys.
Yeah.
So, like, I know that would have happened. Like, again, I've been in that situation before. I'm a technical lifter. Like, I would be the first to say, like, yeah, I probably got gifted that. Like, even in Malta. No, I don't think that lift should have been overturned. I fully should have bombed out. No world record for me that day.
So honest, by the way.
But it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And so, like, I shook their hands in Malta, like, hey, well, thanks for nothing.
Yeah, thanks for nothing.
I'm sorry for wasting your time. But I sat back there, and Kedrick's like, no, you're still in. They overturned. I was like, dang.
You know what? But the way sports go, you're along a 10-year storied career. You're going to be robbed a couple, and you're going to be given a couple.
Yeah.
So that's where, if you ever get robbed, you're like, all right, I probably earned that one. Karma, I probably earned that robbery. They took it from me. Like, if they take one from you, like, all right, well, I did get one at some point that I shouldn't have got. So it is what it makes it easier to accept, I guess.
Well, it's like even when somebody comes up to you with their phone, they're like, what do you think of this? Like, even in the gym, they do it. I'm like, no. Like, you're asking me a question because you're trying to get better. And how do you get better if I'm lying to you?
Right.
Like, no, you didn't hit that. Like, no, that shouldn't be a good call. Like, it is what it is. And you take that and say, dang, let's say like devil's advocate, there was downward motion, they gave me red lights. Sucks. But I did do that. So, like, makes me realize I did not shake any of their hands afterwards. My bad.
I mean, whatever.
I kind of would have did like that to some of them, but no, I'm not going to be mean. I can be, but I'm not.
Fair enough. So, all right. Now, looking ahead, you're going to be at Sheffield. What are your thoughts on Sheffield and the possibilities of bringing Turbo Tiff and how that looks?
It's exciting. I mean, you have the best lifters in the world on this one stage, and it's the one event that it's sold out in what I think Pete said 6 hours, not even.
Yeah.
And then, they're doing a giveaway for 2 VIP tickets, and I remember seeing that post. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Oh, you were thinking about getting the VIP tickets?
No.
I was going to say, like...
I was like, imagine me entering that. No, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. That's how I'm going to
say, you have already entered that draw.
Yeah.
At Worlds, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the mindset. Like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I just get these tickets and all of a sudden I just win?
You get to scalp them?
Yeah.
Like, SBD.
It's cool to be in the crowd, but I want to be on the stage.
Yeah.
And to be up there with... Agatha, like, I love her to death. She was sending me so many well wishes yesterday. And Sanita, who is, she's squatting the 700s at this point.
It's crazy.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
What reality are we in?
Yeah.
What is the world coming to?
Yeah.
But it's, to be on the best of the best and know that you're one of the best on this stage, it's incredible. It's exciting. It's something to really look forward to. And I guess... I will go after school to the gym some more.
I guess the run
Hey,
continues.
we're on summer break right now. So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's
So-
true. That's what it is. Like, don't catch me in summer break.
Yeah.
You don't want you to, World's a summer break. You're
Well,
in
the
trouble.
school year ended right before Worlds.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, I have to literally take everything out of this classroom and make the kids help. Like, oh, y'all want to leave school? You got to help me get all these desks out.
Fair.
And, so like 4 or 5 days, I had to actually be able to rest and train when I wanted to rather than fatigued and exhausted and just body hurting from standing all day. So that was like perfect timing. So going into Sheffield, I'm like, well, I've done it once.
Yeah.
Let's do it again, I think.
What are your thoughts on Turbo Tiff? Do you think she'll be invited? And if so, what does that look like?
I do think she'll be invited. Again, like the people, they want that encore. They want to see that battle again. And that's what Sheffield is. It's a battle of world records, battle of the weight classes, and respectfully, she could compete as a 47, but I think it would make things more interesting if she went 52 to see where her strength is at. Evie Corrigan, she's amazing, respectfully. But seeing a up and coming lifter like maybe Tiffany Chapon is the Agatha Shitko of the 47s. All of a sudden she's going to come 52, take a few world records, which she's super capable of. But it would make a great storyline, right? Either way, like if she wants to compete 47, let's bring on a battle again. But I want her to be her healthiest, strongest self, no matter what weight category she chooses to compete in, and I will continue to show my support for that. And so either way, I'm going to be prepared.
Yeah, you got your invite either way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either way, I'm prepared.
yeah. You're good either way. It is interesting as she looked like obviously 455 in prep. Don't know where her body weight was at, but that would translate. She would be an instant contender should she move to 52. And you got to suspect she was at the very least a light 52 when she hit that. And when you look at Team France, Noémie Alibert, whom used to compete against way back in 2019, throwback, when she was a 47, she's France's 52, and I'm wondering, we'll see what Noémie does today, actually. But this is where maybe Turbo Tiff, after what happened yesterday, watches what happens today and can maybe start kicking around in the back of her head. Maybe that is the route to go. And Sheffield seems to be the place to be like, hey, most people are dropping in body weight. Maybe she goes up for Sheffield. I don't know.
It could be like the Celine Crum. Go up 2 weight classes if you need to.
And
look
it
at her
worked
at
for
Worlds.
yeah, and here she is at Worlds.
But I don't think Nomi Albert would like Tiffany Chapon going to 52. I would, not because I think Nomi would lose, but that is, you want that in the sport.
Yeah.
You want people to be challenged. You want the upsets. You want, fun things to be happening. And, we gave that great battle yesterday. And I think there's going to be even bigger battles to come when people, decide, okay, it's time.
So looking back at this, some people say the first Worlds win is the sweetest because you're on the rise, on the way up. Everything is anticipation until you finally get there. So when you first get it, it's what you've been dreaming of, what you're shooting for. Oh my God, I attained it. And some people say it'll never get sweeter than the first one. But I'm a boxing MMA fan, and I've also read of certain athletes, they got it, they had it, they were I'm him, I'm her. And then when they lose it in the dogged pursuit afterwards, and all of a sudden, the second go around, you've tasted loss, you've tasted a whole lot more adversity than the first go around. And some people say the second one, if you're able to do it, which most aren't, by the way, most people never come back. If you're able to come back and get it another time and have a second run, that second one is the sweetest and means more. Very unique. Most people never make it this far, but you've tasted both. Which one is sweeter for you?
I think the second was the sweeter than the first because honestly, Belarus was terrifying.
Well, that's a whole other back. I was there with you.
So I was like really
Yeah.
excited. I'm like, well, I'm really excited to leave.
Yeah, let's get the hell out of here, huh?
But, going to Sweden, like, I won on body weight at that competition. And, that was against Nomi Alibert. So it was just a crazy experience all over again. And I wondered this time if it was going to come down to body weight again, and Tiffany Chabon weighed less than me. So I was like, well, that's out the table. So we have to pull something else out of our hat. And I think while second may be sweet, this third one it's the tastiest one thus far.
Yeah, the tastiest.
The tastiest one.
It's funny. I just realized, it was Noemi last time who ended up becoming a legend herself, winning couple world. It's you versus the French, huh?
Yeah, you know what? It's always been Nomi or Tiffany, but even in Belarus, I was going against two Swedish people.
Yeah,
like
fair.
Second and third, I was like sandwiched in. I'm like, man, I'm getting like ganged up on by some of these countries right now. But and they were respectfully very strong women as well. But as you say, French got shooters.
France got shooters.
I don't want to say that about America.
Yeah. The context, exactly.
We all know that. We don't need to say what America has. It's problems. That's what we have.
Right. Fair enough. Well, listen, much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I know a lifter after they win doesn't sleep very much that night. So it's always tough ask to have someone come in right away in the freaking morning, no less. So I appreciate you. And you did phenomenal. You're always a great interview. Much appreciated. And I will see you in Sheffield.
See you.
And for everybody watching, please do subscribe. Give us high ratings. That's per usual. And, of course, the schedule for these has been published on the King of Lifts and White Lights Instagram. And until next time, Six Pack Lapadat.